Imagine if you held immense power, but no one ever truly acknowledged it. Imagine having power and status, yet constantly being dismissed. Like it all counts for nothing. That's the reality Hera lived with. Hera was the queen of the gods. She sat on Olympus, ruled beside Zeus, and carried authority older than most of the gods themselves. Yet somehow, history remembers her not as a ruler, but as a reaction. Not as a queen, but as a wife. And that raises a disturbing question. What happens when power exists, but respect never follows? Hera was ancient, strategic, and deeply respected by the gods who understood how Olympus actually functioned. She presided over marriage, oaths, and lawful order, the invisible glue holding divine society together. Zeus may have ruled the sky, but Hera ruled legitimacy. Without her, kingship itself had no moral ground. And that's exactly why her situation was so unbearable. Because Zeus relied on her authority while constantly undermining it. Every time Zeus swore an oath, Hera was the force behind its meaning. Every time a ruler was crowned, marriage was sacrificed, or a dynasty continued, Hera's domain was involved. She wasn't ornamental, she was structural. But structure only works when people respect it, and Zeus didn't. Zeus's infidelity is often treated like gossip, a list of lovers, disguises, scandals. But in Hera's case, those affairs were political acts, whether Zeus intended them to be or not. Each affair sent the same message to Olympus and the mortal world below. Rules existed, but Zeus didn't have to follow them. That didn't just embarrass Hera, but it weakened her authority. If the king of the gods could break marriage vows openly and endlessly, what did marriage even mean? Hera wasn't angry because she was possessive. She was angry because Zeus was dismantling the very concept she governed, and doing it while sitting beside her throne. That kind of contradiction eats away at someone over time. Hera punished mortals. She tormented Zeus's lovers. She cursed and tested his children. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Hera didn't have access to justice. She had access to retaliation. Zeus was untouchable. No council could overrule him. No god could punish him without starting another cosmic war. The system protected him because he was the system. So Hera aimed at what she could reach. Each act of retaliation was a protest disguised as cruelty, a way of forcing consequences into a universe that refused to hold its king accountable. But retaliation without resolution doesn't heal anything. It just hardens the person using it. And slowly, Hera became trapped in a role she never chose, the enforcer of consequences no one wanted to acknowledge. Over time, the way Hera was seen began to change, and that shift didn't happen by accident. Zeus continued to be described as powerful, flawed, impulsive, even charming in his excesses. His mistakes were framed as personal weaknesses rather than failures of leadership. Hera, on the other hand, was slowly reduced to a stereotype. Instead of being understood as a queen responding to constant humiliation and political erosion, she was increasingly described as bitter, jealous, and unstable. That framing mattered because it completely redirected attention away from the real issue. If Hera could be dismissed as just jealous, then no one had to acknowledge that Zeus ruled without restraint. No one had to ask why the king of the gods faced no consequences for violating the very institution his queen represented. Hera's anger became the story, while the injustice that produced it quietly disappeared from view. This is how power protects itself in myth, just as it does in real life. It reframes resistance as irrational, emotional, or excessive, so the system itself never has to be questioned. Instead of being seen as a queen demanding accountability from a ruler who broke his own laws, Hera was recast as an obstacle to Zeus's freedom. And once that image took hold, it justified ignoring her authority altogether. After all, if her objections were rooted in emotion rather than principle, why listen to them? And that's why Hera never rebelled against Zeus the way Zeus rebelled against Kronos. Hera didn't try to overthrow him, no matter how much suffering his behavior caused her. But Hera wasn't shaped by rebellion in the way Zeus was. Zeus was defined by breaking cycles, by overthrowing the old order and replacing it with something new. Hera was defined by continuity. Her power came from preservation, not destruction. If Hera destroyed Zeus, she wouldn't just be removing an unfaithful husband. She would be destroying the system she governed. Marriage, oaths, legitimacy, lawful succession. All of these depended on the throne remaining intact. If the king could be overthrown by his own queen, then the stability she represented would collapse with him. In that scenario, Hera wouldn't emerge as a victorious ruler. She would erase the very foundation that gave her power meaning. So she endured, not because it was easy, and not because it was noble, but because rebellion would have cost her everything she stood for. And endurance, when it's forced rather than chosen, doesn't create peace. It creates resentment that builds slowly and never fully releases. Hera's anger was never sudden nor explosive. It was cumulative. Each betrayal added another layer of damage. Each public humiliation reinforced the same truth. Her authority existed in theory, but not in practice. Over time, that realization settled into her identity. It shaped how she acted, how she responded to threats, and how later generations remembered her. Instead of being known for what she upheld, order, legitimacy, and structure, she became defined by what she opposed. That, more than Zeus's affairs, was the real tragedy of her story. Even so, Hera's influence never disappeared. Mortals continued to fear broken oaths. Kings still sought legitimate marriages to secure their rule. Dynasties still depended on lawful unions to survive. These weren't Zeus's achievements, they were Hera's. She didn't receive recognition for maintaining those systems, but they endured long after individual scandals faded into myth. That's the irony at the center of her story. Hera was constantly undermined, yet completely indispensable. She was dismissed publicly, yet relied upon privately. Power, in her case, didn't look like control or dominance. It looked like being the structure everyone depended on while pretending it didn't matter. The cost of that kind of power was enormous. Hera lost the ability to act without being judged through a distorted lens. She lost the chance to be seen as reasonable, measured, or justified. And yet, she never lost her role. She carried it anyway, even as it isolated her. Her story forces an uncomfortable question. Power alone is not enough. Authority without respect slowly corrodes both the person who holds it and the system that refuses to acknowledge it. Hera was the queen of the gods not because Zeus allowed her to be, but because the universe required what she represented. And still, she spent her existence fighting to be seen as more than an inconvenience. Hera never overthrew Zeus, shattered the throne, or tried to rewrite the order of Olympus. Instead, she stayed. She held the structure together even as it eroded her from the inside. And that leaves a quieter, more unsettling question behind. Not whether Hera was justified in her anger, not whether Zeus deserved her loyalty, but whether power means anything at all when it exists without recognition. Whether authority can endure when it's constantly undermined, and whether a system that survives by ignoring the people who uphold it is actually stable or just waiting for its own breaking point. Because Hera didn't lose her power. She lost the respect that gave it meaning. And once that happens, the damage doesn't look like rebellion. It looks like something holding together long after it should have fallen apart.